You know, the origin of the human being. Now, the white man, he keeps robbing graves and then trying to tell you your origins. Leaving out, of course, matriarchy. The millions of years of matriarchy that we enjoyed on this earth, let alone this little over 6,000 years of patriarchy, of continuous war. But I want to talk about my people. We did not come over the Bering Strait. Think about it. You don't leave a place that is productive in allowing you. So if you've come from wherever and you're living in Mongolia and there's famine going on, do you go to, now just think about it, do you take your family to a colder, more barren place? Or do you go south to a warmer, more productive place? Huh? Then, not only you go north to a barren, colder place, you go to the extreme cold and you walk across a so-called ice bridge. What? With your women and children. Get this. There isn't any physical evidence whatsoever that ever happened. In fact, the contrary is true. I don't care what the grave robber said. Some of the grave robbers, I'm talking about archaeologists, and some of the anthropologists, do you know that people they study, they cannot ask them questions because that would color their viewpoint, color their research, prejudice it, in other words. So they don't ask the people to study it. Anyway, for this purposes here today, I want to tell you some of the beauties, other than the fact that the grave robbers are liars, or they're just incomplete researchers, whatever, incompetence. The other thing is our creation stories. It's odd that you go up and down the hemisphere, and not only do we come from, we have the same chromosomes, essential to an entire race of people, but we have two chromosomes that aren't in the rest of the human race. Think about that. But the oldest book in the world comes from us, from the Mayans. It's called Popovo. Our pyramids are more massive than those in Egypt. Plus they have plumbing. They were built in a swamp, built on mud. Hello? So during the rainy season, the rains come and the plumbing equalizes the pyramids. Simply put, I know it's much more complex than that. Okay, now in the 1970, no, it was the early 80s, I think 82, Vine Deloria and I were at the Archaeological Convention, the AAA, American Archaeological Association, or Anthropological Association. Anyway, it was those A's. And we were on a panel together. And in my segment, after Vine got through, we were on there with other professors. I'm not a professor. So what I said is I challenged that entire convention and that entire association to come up with one weapon of war anywhere in the Western Hemisphere, one weapon of war from any of the graves they've robbed pre-Columbian. In other words, before we discovered Columbus. You know? Listen to that. A weapon of war. We did not have weapons of war. The Aztecs were matriarchal. The Incas were matriarchal. Human sacrifice didn't happen. The Aztecs had a root, and I've seen it, and I've seen the little green ooze that comes out from that root, but you ingest that and it slows down your heartbeat to where you can be operated on. Now, everyone knows, supposedly, you should know, that the Incas were practicing brain surgery. Brain surgery. They're taking pieces out of the skull of people, operating on them, and replacing it with ivory or shell, very hard shell. You know, this is what we were doing, practicing brain surgery and open heart surgery. That's what the Aztecs were doing. The conquistadores, who were unlettered people, in other words, uncivilized, in other words, couldn't read or write, they're the ones who saw this open heart surgery and claimed it to be human sacrifice. Idiots. Now, there are some cultural anthropologists who have uncovered this fact about the root and are in agreement that was not human sacrifice. But they're in the minority, all right? And of course, they are not publicized. But this is fact. All right. Linguists have ascertained that the indigenous languages of the Western Hemisphere are the most expressive on Earth. The most expressive. And they become less expressive as you move west until you come all the way around the world to English, the last language, which every one of you know that can speak another language. It's impossible to adequately interpret your language into English. That's why it's a language of business, because it's so simple. Now, these are some of the strengths we had. And of course, the Constitution of the United States comes directly from us. In 1988, they passed Congress, the U.S. Congress, passed a unanimous resolution thanking the Six Nations for its input into the formation of the United States of America and its Constitution. In fact, when you read the Constitution and then read the Great Law of Peace of the Six Nations, you'll see that the Constitution doesn't go far enough. It only represents about 1/3. And see, we never made the mistake of separating church from state. But we don't allow the church to become a state. You know, in the 11th century AD, the pontiff, the Pope Innocent III, I believe, he's the one who come up with the fact that, well, he's Jesus Christ personified on earth again, and that he's the sole representative of Jesus Christ, if he's not a manifestation thereof. The point being, of course, is that what he says goes. So when he said the whole world that is non-Christian, they're infidels. This is fact, okay? And he spoke Italian. They're infidels, which got their language from the Spanish. They're infidels, and that all non-Christian land, the whole world, because it's Jesus Christ's world, belongs to the Christians. And that's their doctrine of discovery. So I'm telling you, we are the ones who have contributed. Now here's the kicker. 75% of what the world eats, we created. What you eat, we created. That leaves 25% for the rest of the world, man. Can you get it? Who we are? We irrigated uphill without hydraulics. We had suspension bridges. centuries before you discovered it, you invented it. And they were made out of rope. Bet you watch that.